Panasonic has finally released this, their S5 IIX, and it's everything that the S5 II is, but with the video features and specs turned up to 11. So let's check this beast of a new mirrorless camera out and see how it performs. The X shares a lot with the normal S5 II, but has several key things added and upgraded to make it a more powerful video camera. It has the same dual native sensor and processing, same massively improved autofocus, excellent stabilization, and stellar feature set. We only had around 4 days to turn this video around, but we did manage to shoot some creative footage at a local coffee shop in Central called Caffeine, and some other test footage as well. While both of the S5 II bodies are incredibly similar, the most obvious difference is the change from white text for all the branding and markings to black. This looks really nice, and could be good for filmmakers who want their camera to be a bit more stealthy. But it also could affect visibility in darker environments if you can't quite operate the buttons without looking at them quite yet. The font is no longer white for the control buttons, but kind of like a dark grey. It is nice. But other than this colour change, the button layout and operation stays identical between the two cameras. It's what's inside that's different. One of the biggest additions to the camera is the ability to record directly to an external USB-C drive via the USB-C port. And this is possible in any of the formats in the camera, but also opens up the ability to record ProRes, which is possible in Full HD direct to a fast enough SD card, but for all of the higher resolution modes will require an external SSD. When the USB SSD function in the card formatting tab is off, most formats here will be greyed out, apart from the ones possible to the internal media. Once you toggle this function, you will then be able to view all of the ProRes options in the menu and format your SSD. You may also need to use an external SSD with the new faster data rate slow and quick intro modes, which we'll talk about in a bit. Panasonic has also added a little recordable slot line in the recording quality menu, which tells you which media type you need for a given format. Here's a table with everything that requires a USB-C SSD, but essentially you will need to use it for most ProRes options, the new intra-frame slow and quick modes, and some of the larger data rate regular modes as well. ProRes 422 and 42HQ are both available to record in a few different resolutions across the different sensor modes and frame rates. In full frame you're limited to 30p in both 5.8K and Cinema 4K, but can do 60 in Full HD. In the camera's APS-C or pixel-to-pixel mode, you can record 4K and Full HD up to 60p and up to 30 in a 3.3K 4x3 mode. The data rates of these formats versus the regular modes are quite heavy, so be prepared for your SSD to be filled up quite quickly, especially in the 5.8K mode, where in 24p the data rate is 1.6 gigabits per second, which works out at roughly 12 gigabytes per minute. Recording directly to an external USB-C drive has a few benefits. For the larger data rate internal intra-frame formats, you will need fast V90 SD cards, which can be pretty expensive, whereas you can get comparable speed and size SSDs for much less. It's also great for fast turnaround projects, as with a fast enough SSD, you can easily record and then edit directly off of that same SSD, without the need to offload footage from an internal SD card. The big downside of doing this is trying to mount an SSD safely and nicely onto your rig. There are a few different solutions on the market for this, but something that houses an SSD on your rig is what you want to look for. Tilta, SmallRig and Condor Blue all have solutions for this, but I really like the look of Condor Blue's new handle that uses SanDisk's ProBlade SSDs. It looks like a regular NATO top handle, but you can just slide in an SSD and connect it to your camera really cleanly. The ones from SmallRig and Tilta are more side handles, which could also work though. Alternatively, you can just rig a lightweight enclosure onto your camera somewhere, but these integrated accessories are so much nicer. It would also be really cool if you could record your main recording format to an SSD and then a lesser proxy to an internal card for extra redundancy, which currently isn't possible. Up next is the updated internal recording options. The S5 II is limited to just long op compression, and the X adds options for intra-frame compression and ProRes. The new intra-compressed options are only possible up to 4K, but it is possible at 4K 60 and Full HD 180, which is good, but no 6K support. Some of these new formats in the regular mode and slow and quick mode will require you to use an external USB-C SSD, as we mentioned earlier. For those who are unsure, long op and all intra are two different common types of video compression. All Intro compresses the video solely using iframes, which record the entire image your camera is capturing, and they are individually compressed. This results in larger file sizes than LongOp, but they are normally much better to work with in post-production. LongOp or IPB compression combines iframes but uses P and B frames between them. These P and B frames record the difference in your image between the iframe before and after them, not a true frame of your image. Fewer entire video frames being captured results in smaller file sizes. This means that you can see a loss in detail when using LongOp or IPB compression with highly detailed scenes. It's great that you have both options though to choose depending on the kind of work or environment that you're shooting in. In LongOp you have both H.264 and 265 options, and if your workstation has the ability to decode H.265, the reduced data rates and great playback could make it a great option to choose. Overall, LongOp could be a good option for projects that don't need the larger data rates and higher quality of the intra-frame recording, such as a long sit-down interview. However, for detailed or complex situations where you may see more compression artifacts, having the option for internal intra recording is very helpful. The main downside of Intra is the increased data rates over LongOp, which are almost double of their LongOp equivalents. But this is the sacrifice you have to make for better compression and playback performance. When looking at our chart tests, you really can see a difference in detail across the different formats. So what balance of quality and file size you want will really come down to what you are filming. When shooting the higher frame rate modes, you can also see a big difference in detail between the different compression options, so it's good to have a range of options. The S5 II has the same full-size HDMI port that can be found on the S5 II, and both are capable of outputting RAW via it. However, the S5 II is only able to do so with an optional paid upgrade which costs roughly £160, which is over half of the cost of the upgrade from the S5 II to the 2X. Both cameras will be able to output both ProRes RAW and B-RAW, which is great as you can choose depending on what post workflow you want to use. For ProRes RAW, you will need to use an Atomos Ninja 5, 5 Plus or Shogun Connect, and for B-RAW you will need either a Blackmagic Video Assist 5-inch or 7-inch 12G HDR. No matter what recorder you use, the resolution, bit depth and frame rate options remain the same. You can output 5.9K full frame up to 30p, APS-C 4.1K 17:9 up to 60p, and APS-C 3.5K 4:3 up to 50p. When outputting RAW, you cannot record at all internally, which is a bit of a shame. It'd be good to have the option to record proxies internally to SD cards. We fortunately had access to a prototype firmware for our Ninja 5 Plus, which allowed us to record ProRes RAW externally, but we weren't able to record any B-RAW as firmware for that was not yet available. We managed to shoot a little bit of test footage with it, which we'll make note of when it pops up on screen. So if you want the most flexible image for post-production and don't mind recording externally, it's great that you have both of these options to choose from. Personally, we prefer using B-RAW in post as it has much better support within Resolve and Premiere, which are our two primary pieces of post software. Other than the new recording options internally and externally, the other big set of additional features to the X is focused around connectivity. You have the ability to stream from the camera wirelessly via a USB-C to Ethernet adapter or tethered to your phone using your phone's network. Depending on what mode you choose, you have a few different resolutions and frame rates at different data rates. When using Wi-Fi, you are limited to 1080p, but you can actually stream 4K when using USB tethering or wired LAN, which is pretty cool. Though 4K streams are still quite rare to see. Both Wi-Fi and USB tethering can use the RTMP or RTMPS protocol, whereas wired LAN uses RTP or RTSP. I can see this camera being very popular with freelance content creators, and it's great to have this simple option to stream using this camera. It means a one-man band could easily stream using this camera by themselves without too much stress. This adds another type of work that this hybrid camera can slide into easily. It can also be used with Panasonic's webcam software if you'd like to use it as such as well. So which camera should you buy out of the S5 II and this new X version? Well, both are excellent hybrid video cameras, but the X is definitely the one more aimed at video users. Though some video shooters will be perfectly happy with the original S5 II, the X has some killer features that easily justify the £300 difference in price. Do you want to shoot the best quality possible with this sensor and camera? Well, the option to shoot internal intra-frame, external ProRes, ProRes RAW or B-RAW will allow you to do so. Do you want better connectivity for streaming? Well, the X has that over the 2. Or do you just want that new all black paint job? There really are only a few compromises that the S5 II has, and the X has solved a good few of them. You still have the same excellent image quality, if not better, massively improved autofocus system, great video focus features, and versatile L mount that the S5 II has. And at £2,300, the S5 IIX offers an insane amount of power for filmmakers, especially compared to its competition. I think the big thing to consider if you are looking at grabbing one of these is what lenses you want to invest into. Autofocus performance is going to be most reliable with native L mount lenses, but EF adapted lenses also work pretty well. We are actually running a bundle on our site at the moment where you can get the 20-60mm kit lens and a 50mm f1.8 for an extra £278 on top of the body price. That's pretty incredible for over £1,000 worth of lenses, and if you're looking at picking up one of these cameras, I would definitely suggest grabbing this deal as it's a pretty insane price. Stock should start shipping this month, so if you want to get yours as soon as possible, head over to our website and put a pre-order in now via a fully refundable deposit. This has been a very brief look at the S5 IIX, as we covered so much of it in our video focused around the regular S5 II. So if you want to learn more, check out our previous video here. Let us know what you think of the S5 IIX, or if you have any other further questions or video ideas in the comments below around the S5 IIX. And if you liked the video, please give it a like and maybe consider subscribing so you don't miss out on our awesome upcoming content. And thank you so much for watching.